Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Jack Brevis and today I'm going to be talking about the VAT changes for penalties and interest that are coming into effect from the 1st of January 2023. So as I said, I'm going to be going through all the changes for the VAT penalties and interest for both late submissions and payments in this video, and this is for all periods that are starting from the 1st of January 2023. So the idea of these changes is HMRC are trying to simplify the process and make it more clearer for companies and individuals who pay VAT. So to start with, I'm going to be looking at late submissions. I'm also going to be focusing mainly on quarterly submissions because that's the most common that companies and individuals use to submit their VAT returns. So the surcharge penalty system is going to be removed by HMRC, and that's been replaced with a new points-based system, which when you reach a certain points threshold, you will receive a £200 fine. So if you are quarterly reporting, the points threshold is going to be 4, and then for annual and monthly it's going to be 2 and then 5 respectively. So basically when you hit the 4 points on a quarterly return, you will receive a £200 penalty from HMRC. So if you submit your VAT return late, then you'll receive a 1 penalty point. So for every return that you submit, it's 1. So if you submit your VAT return late 4 times on a quarterly return, then you will receive 4 penalty points and then in return have to pay £200. So how can you get rid of these points, or do they expire? That is the question I know you are all asking, but yes, they do expire and you can get rid of them. So points will automatically expire if you do not reach that threshold, so that 4 points on the quarterly, after 24 months that you got them. So when they were issued, 24 months later, they will be automatically expired basically, so you won't have to worry about those ones anymore. But if you do hit that 4-point threshold, there is only a couple of ways that you can get rid of them. They will not expire once you've got to that point. So once you hit 4 points, if you keep getting more points, then you'll keep getting fines. They won't just go away. The only way to get rid of them is to submit all of your returns on time in the next 12-month period. So if you're on a quarterly VAT return, that is the next 4 VAT returns. They have to be submitted on time for you to be able to wipe off those points and then be able to start again, because otherwise without that you'll keep on getting fines. Okay, so we've talked about late submissions, but what about late payments? So late payments is actually split into 2 different bits. So you get a fine for late payments and then interest on that late payment as well. So it's actually going to be broken down to 2 different bits that I'm going to talk about now for you. So there's a lot to go through with this one, so I do apologise, but I will be looking at my notes just to make sure I'm getting everything right. But to start with the late payments then, if you pay your VAT late for up to 15 days, so no longer than 15 days after the day it was due, there will be no late payment penalty. Remember, I'm not talking about interest at the moment, I'm only talking about payment penalties. So anything up to 15 days, there is no penalty, but that does not mean that the VAT deadline has changed. Whenever the 7th comes along, you still have to pay that VAT return bill. It doesn't mean that you can pay it 15 days later now. It is still the 7th, so make sure you do still pay it on time. But if you pay your payment between 16 days and 30 days, so it's that far overdue, the penalty is calculated at 2% of the VAT that you owe at day 15. This is why I'm having to look at my notes because there's a lot to go through. So basically then, my example here, so if you owe £15,000 on day 15, the penalty will be £300 because that's worked out at 2% of what was due on day 15. But if your payment is 31 days or more overdue, the penalty is still calculated at 2% on the VAT that you owe at day 15, but you also then have to pay a 2% fine on the VAT that was due on day 30. So with this one, we're saying that it was still £15,000 due. So then there's £300 fine for what was due on day 15, and then another £300 fine for what was due on day 30. However, if you are going to settle it after 31 days, there is then a secondary penalty. So on top of those 2 penalties, there's actually a percentage penalty. So the second penalty that will be charged, so we're going to say we've paid our VAT on day 51. On that one, it is then 21 days after day 30. So this will be charged at 4% of the £15,000 for that 21 days. So that works out at £15,000 times 4%, then you times that by 21 days divided by 365 days in a year, and this will then give you a £34.50 penalty on top of the original penalty of £300 for the 15 days, £300 for the 30 days, giving you a total penalty of £634.50. So that's why I was looking at notes. There's a lot to take in there. I will put extra links below, and hopefully I've managed to explain this with a few more graphics on the screen. There's a lot to take in, but basically the longer you leave it, the more penalties there will be. Up to 15 days there's no penalties, up to 30 days there is a first penalty, and then you get that secondary penalty on whatever was due, depending on how many days later than that you pay it. So on top of the late payment penalties, there will also be a late payment interest charged. The only difference is late payment interest is charged from day one. There's no grace period of the 15 days. So if you pay your VAT bill 1 day late, you will be charged interest on this, okay? So the late payment interest, as I say, is charged from day one, and it is calculated at the Bank of England base rate plus 2.5%. Obviously the Bank of England base rate does change, so you'd have to check, or HMRC will obviously inform you what they're going to be charging you, but that is how they're going to be charging it. Again, I'm checking my notes, just make sure I'm saying everything correctly. But so using an amount due then on this one, we're going to say it's £8,340 that you've got to pay, and you've paid it 7 days late. The late payment interest on this would be £9.60. Remember, this is on top of the late payment penalty that I spoke about earlier on. So this is calculated using a Bank of England base rate of 3.5% plus the 2.5% HMRC rate. So you've got the base of Bank of England base rate plus HMRC's rate of 2.5%, which gives us a 6% interest rate. And that is then calculated at £8,340 times that 6% times by 7 divided by 365 days, which gives us that £9.60. Don't forget that is still on top of that repayment penalty, so you'll have to pay both of those penalties and interest. So the last thing that I'm going to be talking about is repayment interest. So this is when HMRC owe you money from a refund on a VAT return, and this will be paid at the difference between when HMRC pay it and when the VAT is due, which is on the 7th. This doesn't include overpayments though, so if you pay HMRC £1,000 instead of £100, they're not going to give you any interest on the difference of what they owe you from that, because that is your error and they're not going to pay it basically, unfortunately. This is though at a much lower rate than the other interest that they're going to charge you if you owe them money. So this is going to be based on the Bank of England rate minus 1% with a minimum paid out of 0.5%, which is a bit far from the 6% that I was talking about in the last example. So looking at this then, if you're due a refund of £10,000 and HMRC pays you after 3 days, so that is, say you receive it on day 10 when it was due on day 7, you would receive a grand total of 41p. And that is based on the Bank of England rate of 1% minus 1%, so they've used the minimum of 0.5%. If you flip that on the other way, you would be owing a lot more in interest, but unfortunately HMRC are not going to be paying you the same as what they want you to pay them. So that is everything that I'm going to be talking about today. As I said earlier, there is going to be plenty of links down below explaining more of this with the main HMRC page and just a few other links that I think will be very useful for you. But hopefully you found this video very useful, and if you have, please make sure you share it with people, like it, because it does help. And also go follow us on our other social medias on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we're on TikTok now, so we're doing all that kind of stuff, so please make sure you go follow us. But otherwise, have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.